This is the story of me trying to track down one of the rarest Snorlax cards in the world. It's so rare that there is little to no eBay price data for this card. In fact, it's so rare and so dismissed that collectors and official articles like Card Collector and TCG Player, when they evaluate the top most valuable Snorlax cards, this card isn't even on there, even though, well, the one data point we do have. This is the story of me trying to track it down. This is the case of the elusive Snorlax. Before I tell you what card I'm searching for, let me give you some context about the Pokemon trading card game. Now, Pokemon has released many cards and many sets since its inception. From the modern sets of Journey Together and Prismatic Evolutions, to the WotC era of Base Set, Jungle, Fossil, Team Rocket. And because Pokemon has been around for so long, the card art style and the chase cards and the chase Pokemon have changed over the years. Pokemon cards can be divided into two broad categories, vintage and modern. Now, there are many different ways you can define the boundary between when a card is considered vintage and when a card is considered modern, but for me, vintage is when you care about the holographic rares, where the Pokemon takes up about half the card, whereas modern, you don't care about the holographic rares at all. For example, in what I call the wannabe investor / scalper era, you have these gorgeous full arts from Prismatic Evolution, 151, Lost Origin, Evolving Skies, Chilling Reign. Now, Pokemon has played a lot with the design in the modern age. You can see they introduced tin cards in Celebrations in 2021, Team Up cards with multiple Pokemon on one card, and Rainbow Rares in the Sun and Moon era of 2017. You can see that in the last decade, the chase cards are always the full art cards. The origin of that is right around the cusp of vintage and modern in 2011, when the Black and White era set introduced the first two full art cards, Reshiram and Zekrom. Evidently, it must have been a big hit because ever since Black and White, in regards to Pokemon TCGs and full art cards, yeah. For me, I'm more fascinated in the vintage era of Pokemon trading cards because it really felt, at the time, they were very open to experimenting with a lot of different card art styles. It was almost as if they were trying to find its identity. For example, there were the Prime cards where the Pokemon is seemingly bursting through the border and a super close-up shot of their face. I personally like to think that that was probably inspired by someone's cat or some boyfriend who sucked at taking pictures of their girlfriend and she complained and they were trying to make the case that this type of shot is cool. That's a personal tinfoil hat of mine, but anyway. You have them do the Exodia treatment on Legend cards where it takes 2 cards to complete a Pokemon. You have these gold stars with the Pokemon popping out of the card. You even have this unique lenticular movie promo for the screening of the movie Destiny Deoxys. But most people associate vintage with when Wizards of the Coast, or WotC, was the distributor of the cards. We have the e-reader era of 2002 to 2003, like this Snorlax, and one of my personal favorite artworks, this Grimer. This is where you could swipe it on the side of a Game Boy to play minigames or even see their Pokédex entries. The Ancient Mew promo for the movie Power of One. You had the Neo sets, which introduced shiny variants of Pokemon. And of course, you have the really early WotC vintage cards, like the base set trio here, and this Snorlax from Jungle. But they were still experimenting during this time. Relatively recently, it has come to light that disco holo patterns were found, potentially from WotC experimenting with different types of holographic printings. You had this 1998 promo card of Snorlax if you bought an N64 back in the day. And you had the classic Ken Sugimori artworks in the Card-Ass cards under the company Bandai. I mean, look at that Gengar and Ditto artwork. Pokemon Company, please bring this artwork back. It's interesting here because you can see the Pokemon designs were still fluid. For example, Snorlax running, exercising, or just had a massive late night Taco Bell run, or this white belly Pikachu, or the original Chonkachu in 1996. Point is, around this time, not everything was controlled by the Pokemon Company or Nintendo. They were trying a lot of things, especially in the early days. And one of those things that Pokemon tried, underneath the giant shadow of all these iconic vintage sets, lies one other, smaller, lesser-known vintage set, made by a different company. Not WotC, not the Pokemon Company. That company is Topps. According to a 1999 IGN article, Topps signed a license agreement with Nintendo to sell Pokemon lollipops, stickers, tattoos, and of course, Pokemon trading cards in the United States. The Topps company was founded in 1938 and had a lot of experience in making cards in the sports scenes, so they manufactured quite a few Pokemon sets. They knew what they were doing. Probably the most famous Topps sets from them, amongst niche Pokemon fans, is the Topps Chrome set. Basically, Topps made cards of all the original 151 Pokemon, and for each Pokemon, there are 4 different holographic variants. In a pack, there is the base Chrome, which already is holographic. Each pack had 5 cards, so you had 4 of these. Notice the artwork. The Pokemon takes up the full card. So, technically speaking, these Topps cards were the first full art holographic cards. There's just something so amazingly simple about this design, allowing the Pokemon to just pop out. Now, what's the 5th card? The 5th card is the Chase. The Spectra Chrome, which you can get 1 out of every 2 packs. The Sparkle Chrome, which you can get 1 of every 10 packs. And the most famous one, Technochrome, which you get 1 out of every 15 packs. It's estimated that for trying to complete a whole Technochrome set of the 151 Pokemon, it is estimated to take about 12,700 packs. Yikes. Not only that, Topps divided the original 151 Pokemon into 2 separate sets. The first 75-ish in Chrome Series 1, and the next 75-ish in Chrome Series 2. Finding these out in the wild is near impossible. Trust me, we'll get to it later. Chrome Series 1 is like Aquapolis Expedition. Chrome Series 2 is like Skyridge times the odds of finding a perfect Ivy Shiny under a double rainbow. It's that level of rare. That brings me to the title of this video. We are looking for the Topps Technochrome Snorlax from Chrome Series 2. The rarest of the rare in terms of Pokemon Snorlaxes, not just in Topps, but in all of Pokemon. So now you're probably asking, why? Why am I trying to find a Technochrome Topps Snorlax card? Am I a Snorlax collector? Am I a Topps collector? Am I an investment bro and I'm trying to pump up the prices of my Topps cards so I can liquidate? Well, no. The card is not even for me. It's actually for a random stranger I met on the internet. Let me explain. And to explain, we have to rewind all the way back.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru. to duel! Get ready for the greatest adventure they've ever had to face with Pokemon you've never seen before. Kids WB presents Pokemon, the movie 2000.
I grew up with the Pokemon show and movies. During this time, not only did Topps make the individual Pokemon Topps cards of the 151 OGs, but also, in conjunction with the Pokemon 2000 movie, they made these authentic film frame cards. They contain real film strips of real scenes from the actual movie. I had film cards of the three legendary birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, and even the main reveal, Lugia. My friend and I, on the playground, used to pretend these were real Pokedexes, and then we found these Pokemon in the wild. I actually had a substantial collection in my childhood. And then, the washing machine tragedy of 2005 happened, followed up by the Great Mom Purge of 2011. What is the Great Mom Purge, you ask?
It's garbage day. Mom. Look, it's simple. Skateboard, golly. Little League trophy, probably attic, apple core, trash. That's not trash. That's not trash. No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Ever since then, I've tried to reassemble of that which was lost. But Topps film cards are super rare and super hard to come by. In fact, the pull rate is 1 out of every 36 packs, meaning out of one full booster box, you probably could only get one of these. But if you had my luck, you would get none. Even when Pokemon exploded in popularity during the COVID boom, it was still really hard to come by. I managed to find two, Moltres and Articuno, but a cool Lugia and a cool Zapdos frame remained elusive. This is what my binder looked like for the longest time. That really tilts me. And as a collector, can probably tell you, it's very tilting when you finish the majority of a binder page and there is just two empty slots staring back at you, mocking you. Then 15 years later, into collecting, boop! I found someone on eBay with an authentic film frame Lugia. I messaged them, we talked, and it was very clear that we both loved Topps cards. And I think there might have been some value to that because when I told him what I was looking for, he said he happened to not only have a Lugia, but also a Zapdos that had not been listed yet. And he just threw that card in for free. This chapter of my childhood was complete. He helped me out in completing my childhood dream, and so I had to return the favor, somehow, or at least try. He's a big-time collector of Topps cards, and he has spent the last few years searching for his last Grail card, the Technochrome Snorlax. Now, here is his criteria. First, condition. It has to be in a good condition, on the order of a PSA 8 or 9. For those that don't know, official trading card grading service like CGC, Beckett, TAG, and PSA can rate cards. A perfect card gets a 10. A quote-unquote well-loved card like my Raichu here gets a 1. And there's everything in between. You can't often tell the difference between a rating of an 8, 9, or 10 with the naked eye, so much so that these are all actually PSA 8s. Or are they? I'm not going to tell you. Anyway, you can't tell the difference between an 8, 9, or 10 just by looking at them with your eyes. You can tell, however, by how much you cry after you purchase it. For example, take this first edition base set Shadowless Charizard. For an ungraded raw card, the price is about 3.5k. And it hovers around it for most low to mid-level grades. But for a PSA 8, the price is about 11.2k. For a PSA 9, the price is about 19.2k. And for a perfect PSA 10, whoa, 253k. Alright, I can see why he only wants an 8 or a 9. The monetary value is what a lot of Pokemon content is focused on nowadays, and you can see why. That's the down payment of a house. But also, from what I see, true hardcore collectors care more about this. This is the population of Charizard First Edition Shadowless base set for each grade. Now, there is a correlation between dollar amount and grade, and because getting a perfect grade is hard, and so should command some sort of premium. But the way a collector thinks is not necessarily about the dollar amount. The key is uniqueness. People want novelty in their collections. They want to be the Seto Kaiba and have the only 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons in the world. Something like that. That's why you have very passionate card communities like the Era community, who really like their unique one-on-one cards that most people would just shun into the trash can. You have people who exclusively collect PSA 1 cards, the poorest of all conditions. Why? I asked my friend who does that, and they said, because we're winners, and winners take 1s. Collectors just want to be able to say they have something unique that no one else in the world has. Topps collectors are like this too. Since the beginning, Topps never outsold the main Pokemon TCG. No one wants Topps. It's such a niche product that you can't even look it up on TCG Player. It's so hard to move, some vendors refuse to take them and prefer bulk from the main TCG. Let's see what the PSA population for Technochrome Snorlax is. So in the entire world, there are only 18 graded Technochrome Snorlax cards. Alright, how about CGC? Only 2 graded. Super unique, super scarce. And because of that, some collectors want it. Now, getting a good grade is especially hard for Topps. Why? Quality control was hard. You hear that clicking sound in the pack opening animation? That's not Artistic's license. That's real. Because of the material, Topps cards often stick together when you take them out, damaging the corners, edge, and especially the surface, like my Topps Eevee card you see here, or my Hitmonchan here, which, to be honest, looks kinda cool. It looks like it punched through the card. But if you know any hardcore Pokemon collectors, you know they care about condition. So finding a PSA 8 or 9 level Technochrome Snorlax in the wild, that's gonna be a challenge. Second criteria, price. For a PSA 8, the max budget is 1.7k. For a PSA 9, the max budget is 2.5k. That's a lot of money for a card, but that's the name of the game of chasing nostalgia. And he's been searching for this card for years. That's the benefit of having one long-term goal. He has focused years-long savings accumulated for the Technochrome Snorlax Only Fund, ready to go. So yeah, those are his 2 criteria for the Technochrome Snorlax. Let's begin the journey, shall we? This is a simplified figurative map of my initial journey to find the Technochrome Snorlax. It's divided into 2 hemispheres, my own little network or places local to me on land, and complete Hail Marys into the unknown, basically scouring deep into the sea of the internet. And by deep, I mean going to the second page of Google. Anyway, I'm going to start with the latter. I divided my online search into 4 different categories: eBay, Whatnot, Mercari, and other miscellaneous websites, specifically Tag, Reddit, and Elite Forum. Now, in the entirety of eBay, there are only 2 tops Technochrome Snorlaxes listed. One of them is a PSA 10 for $6K. That's out of budget. The next one is a PSA 9, but for $4K. Maximizing my charisma stat, I was able to convince him to do absolutely nothing. They didn't respond. I get it, I'm a rando, whatever, that doesn't bother me at all. So I started typing in Technochrome on eBay and messaging as many big top sellers as I possibly could. I must have contacted over 100 eBay sellers, big or small. On Whatnot, there wasn't any Technochrome Snorlaxes listed, but there was someone that was selling a few Technochromes, so I created an account and messaged them. On Mercari, there wasn't any Technochrome Snorlaxes. This is going to be a common theme, by the way. But there was one vendor that had a few high-end tops cards. So I created an account and messaged them. So those are the big 3 sites that I know are popular for Pokemon card buying and selling, as of today. But there are some other miscellaneous websites that I searched which were promising. For the first website, there is a grading company called Tag that's relatively new compared to the other grading companies of PSA, CGC, and Beckett. I've heard of the name gaining momentum on social media. Their style apps look pretty cool. And what's even more cool is that they have a Technochrome Snorlax OK, and it's a perfect Tag 10 OK that costs, oh my lord, $35,000? Is it in Uganda shillings? No, it's in dollars. Looks like there's only one. So that's out. Onto Reddit. There are literally posts about every other Technochrome Pokemon except for Snorlax. In every subreddit. Pokemon card collectors, Pokemon TCG, Topps Pokemon card guide, Pokemon TCG trades, Snorlax. I couldn't easily find anyone that had a Technochrome Snorlax, so surprisingly, I struck out there. Now on Elite Forum, which is kind of like a Pokemon forum website, I did find a few Topps posts right under crypto post. Alright. Now, there is this one post made by Sam, let's call him Sam. Sam made a post about how he finally completed a full Technochrome Series 2 set. And it's right there. Literally right there. So I created an account and sent them a message asking if it was available. And the result of these inquiries? The person who had the Technochrome Snorlax on Elite Forum didn't respond to me. I mean, obviously, he's not going to respond to someone 8 years later from that post, from someone who just created an account. For the most part, on Mercari, I got ghosted. The Whatnot person didn't have any. No one on eBay had it. So, alas, all online leads thus far led me nowhere. Now, another possibility is to ask those in my own network. I'm like a very discounted Saul Goodman.
I know a guy who knows a guy who knows another guy.
I regularly went to local game stores and card shows where nerds like me could gather and flex their collection, buy and sell cards, talk about their love for the cards, and look at stuff we couldn't afford. So, let's go for this. One of the big people I met from my local game store is West from Rock Mountain TCG. I mean, look at his Instagram. So many black labels, high-end, rare cards. I consider Snorlax Technochrome a high-end rare card, so I messaged him. Not only did he say he didn't have any, but he also didn't know anyone selling them. Okay. I messaged another local vendor, Tenzin and Alyssa. They didn't have it, but they did remember something. A while ago, at a local trade night, he was assigned to a table next to an old bull gentleman who had binders of many different sets: WotC, e-reader, modern, and even tops. He collected everything. Unfortunately, Tenzin and Alyssa couldn't remember his name. The only description we had was just he's bald, he wears glasses, and has lots of cards. No, seriously, he's known as the old guy with a lot of cards. He probably moved because the phone number he left behind doesn't work anymore. I hope he's okay. Next, I asked my local game store, Cardboard Diamonds. The owner didn't know anyone who had them, nor did they have them themselves. I messaged another local game store, Metro Retro. He has only ever found one Technochrome in his entire lifetime, and it wasn't a Snorlax. I went to as many local card shows as I possibly could. No Technochrome Snorlaxes. I even sold off some of my collection to buy tickets for the biggest and arguably most famous Pokemon card show, the Collecticon. I collected stats on this. Of the 52 vendor tables I could visit at Collecticon, only 6 had any sort of Topps cards, and none of them were Technochrome Snorlax. Oh boy. In general, for all card shows I've been to, barely anyone had Topps, and the ones that did have Topps mostly had the non-holographic ones. And if there's one thing you should know about card collectors, it's that shiny cardboard is always better than non-shiny cardboard. And even the shiny Topps cardboard, no vendor carried. And if the biggest Pokemon card show of all time didn't have Technochrome Snorlax, oof. Now, it wasn't a net zero visiting all these card shows. For one, I was able to meet Coop's collection. He did have a box of Topps, just not holographic. Not even he had the fabled Topps Chrome cards. Then, at one point, there was a break. I met someone at a card show. They had overheard me looking for Topps cards, and they said they knew a guy who knows a guy who previously worked as a Topps factory worker that had several sheets of Technochromes, Sparkles, Spectras, everything. Is this too good to be true? This does match up with what Sam said in Leaf Forum, where he speculated a set of Technochromes he got from the seller were either from a giveaway set or a company giveaway to an employee. If this person was local, was there a Topps factory nearby? This card show was in Philadelphia, and there was a facility near Philadelphia associated with Topps card production in Duryea, Pennsylvania near Scranton. This plant operated from 1965 until around 1997. The Technochrome Series 2, which had a Technochrome Snorlax, was rolled out in 2000, so within striking distance. He asked me for my contact info, and he said he would contact me when he would secure the deal. And
We've been trying to reach you concerning your car's extended warranty. You should have...
God dang it. I continued to reach out to vendors and online sellers for the Technochrome. It was about 3 weeks in that I start to realize that in the Topps community, everyone knows everyone. I messaged a woman I met at a local card show, Showpoke, known for wearing her awesome Magikarp hat. She has a Technochrome Snorlax, PSA 10. That's definitely above budget. A month later, I met another woman at another card show, Melly. She knows someone that has a PSA Technochrome Snorlax. Yup, it's Showpoke. At another card show, I met another person that's big in Topps called Robbie the Rocket. He has a Technochrome Snorlax, PSA 10. Out of price range, unfortunately. And turns out she knows Showpoke. And he turns out that Big T has already contacted him already. One of my biggest contacts I've met in my personal Pokemon collection journey is PokeCam7. Literally in his bio, he is known as the Topps guy and has a ton of cool stuff. So he was amongst the first people I messaged. PokeCam7 doesn't have it. The Topps guy doesn't have it. Also, turns out Big T knows him and already asked him, so there's that. Some people that I messaged on eBay began asking around on my behalf as well. They didn't have any Topps Chrome Snorlaxes, but they did refer me to someone. He has a Technochrome Snorlax, PSA 9. It was slightly out of budget, but it's within striking distance. And Big T knew him already, by first name basis. Turns out that PSA 9 wasn't to his liking, saying, "Not all PSA 9s are created equal." Fair enough, grading is subjective. Big T actually knew all these people I mentioned, Robbie the Rocket, Showpoke, and PokeCam7, all the most promising leads. Will I be able to find anyone online that Big T doesn't know? I mean, he spent years searching and pretty much messaging all the big Topps people out there already. Who was I to think I could find someone he didn't already contact? Although I will say, he didn't know about the Elite Forum account post, so my batting average so far has been lower than Ash Ketchum's championship win rate. Now, I knew Topps was niche, but I didn't appreciate how niche it was. After all, the Facebook Topps Appreciation Group only has about 500 people worldwide. For context, the Misprint Facebook group, which collects Pokemon Era cards, widely regarded as a super niche part of the Pokemon community, has 80k members. A page for Zubat, one of the most hated Pokemon ever because of their frequencies in caves, has 3.4k followers. This is gonna be way harder than I thought. Whatever, let's get some sleep. Reconvene in the morning. Alright, a new day, a new opportunity to find the Technochrome Snorlax. Let's continue. Oh, did you get it? I'm getting multiple people reaching out to me asking what's going on with the Techno Snorlax. He might be single-handedly be driving up the Techno... Really? Ah, eBay, thanks for reminding me how rare the Snorlax is. Everything looks fine. I learned I have to be very careful. Topps is such a small and niche community that it turns out that I had asked so many people about a Technochrome Snorlax online, I may have artificially increased the demand and thus artificially increased the price of existing listings of Technochrome Snorlaxes. Another unintended consequence, and this is actually a little bit scary. Even though my Instagram is private, I started getting random Instagram ads and messages. Like this person. He asked if I was interested in any Pokemon product. He literally pulled up like the merchant in Resident Evil 4 and went,
Got something that might interest you.
I said, well, I was interested in a Technochrome Snorlax as well as things for my personal collection, and he said he has it. Okay, this feels very shady. I asked for a picture, and... That's not a Technochrome foiling, that's just a regular rainbow foil. And that mat in the background, that looks familiar. Your name is Atlantic TCG, and yet every one of PokeCoop's social is, well, not Atlantic TCG. Yep, that's a scammer. See ya. Bye-bye. Okay, I need to chill my online presence. I was going to anyways, given I artificially increased the demand of those Technochrome Snorlaxes. Sorry, Big T, by the way. But apart from those listed, it seems no one has a Technochrome Snorlax online that fits Big T's criteria. The operative word being online. This Technochrome Snorlax search has been the hardest Pokemon quest I've ever had. None of my contacts, even the ones that go to a lot of card shows and collecticons and deal with high-end cards, don't have it. If I have to find a high-end card, I'm going to have to try and call the big guns and hope that they respond. So, Pokemon content has been booming for my YouTube algorithm. Most of my feed is dominated by buyer POVs, vendor POVs, games, people shining light on the most recent scams and drama, buying and showing collections, pack openings, card shows, Pokemon investments. But thankfully, that's actually not the only content. It turns out if I just type in best Pokemon store or biggest Pokemon store, videos come up with these Pokemon influencers visiting these cool Pokemon stores. Like PokeRev visited the biggest Pokemon card shop ever in Las Vegas. And Phoenix Resale discovered the secrets behind America's largest card shop in Louisville, Kentucky. Okay, there are two biggests here. Alright, how about Randolph Pokemon found the best Pokemon card store in America in Texas. And Leonhardt visited a 5-star rated Pokemon card store. Sure. Now there are spending spree videos like Super Duper Danny, $1,000 Pokemon card shopping spree. Others had a $50 budget, $10,000 budget, and a $2 million card shopping spree, which I personally think is basically no budget. Actually, some people actually did put in no budget in title. Basically, what I'm trying to say is there is a lot of content showcasing local card shops. The Jewel card are almost always there at the places they visit. We place a lot of emphasis on local game stores, but what if the card I want isn't local? After all, I already exhausted all my local game stores. None of them had a Technochrome Snorlax. There's stores all around the United States that could potentially house that fabled Technochrome Snorlax. Maybe one of those stores featured in these Pokemon influencer videos has it. Or surely, at the very least, some Pokemon store in America must have top Pokemon cards in general. And surely, at least one of them has a Technochrome Snorlax. Surely. And I know what you're thinking, but Jack, you can't afford a road trip to all 50 states just to look at Pokemon stores. And you'll be right. I have a regular job and can't just take my precious PTO to go on a road trip. That's why I watch these Pokemon influencers, to live vicariously through them. These Pokemon influencers have way more budget than me to travel to card shops and card events all over the world. But I can do the next best thing, visit them virtually. This is a Pokemon Go-ified map of the United States. Every Pokestop you see here is a city with one or more card shops that I called. And I tried to call at least 5 shops in every single state, oftentimes a lot more. And don't worry, I'm not going to tell the story of every single one, I'll just go through some of the highlights. I started with card shops mentioned by PokeTubers. In PokeRev's video, where he visited the biggest Pokemon card shop ever, We Play Games. In that video, at the 113 mark, you can actually see they do carry Topps cards. So I called them. Did they have a Technochrome Snorlax?
Nope.
Okay, how about Through the Decades of Louisville, Kentucky in Phoenix Resale's video?
Nope.
This is going to be a recurring theme, by the way. Bulbasaur and Crystal Collects also went to the best Pokemon shop in New York City. Pokecourt. Super cool store. Surely they would have...
Nope.
Side note, of all the big Pokemon card influencers I messaged directly, Bulbasaur was the only one whom responded. And even the great Bulbasaur didn't have a Technochrome Snorlax. Oh boy. But regardless, thank you Bulbasaur for somehow making time for me in the sea of DMs you must have. There was the fabled Frank & Sons collectible card show in California, featured by influencers from Super Duper Danny to Deep Pocket Monster to literally every other Pokemon YouTuber. In fact, in Super Duper Danny's video, at the 928 mark, you can see they have holographic Topps cards. Quite a few of them. And so I sent them a message, ignored. I get it. This is one of the biggest card shows and Pokemon vendor sites of all time, and I'm just a rando. I get it. How about Lord Rush Collectibles in Frisco, Texas from Leonhardt's video?
Nope.
Or Spuds TCG in Pearland, Texas from Randolph Pokemon's video?
Nope.
Super Duper Danny and Vivian's Collectible both went on a shopping spree in Los Angeles. And all those stores?
Nope. Nope. Nope.
It's
Nope.
kind of funny because in Super Duper Danny's video, you can see that the store had every Snorlax but the one I was looking for. Collectible Tags also visited the best Pokemon card shops in Massachusetts, with directions. Yeah, they gave me this perfect frame that shows their route with all the cool stores they visited. And...
Nope. 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 Nope.
we'll go back to one of these in a bit. But for now, of all the stores featured by these Pokemon influencers, even the coolest overall stores didn't have any Topps cards. Thank you though for showcasing such awesome stores in all your videos. I really wish I could visit them all, but until then, keep making content so I can live vicariously through y'all. For the rest of these Pokestops you see here, I straight up cold called them. I literally went to Google, typed in Pokemon store in insert state name here, and went down the list. Or at least went as far down the list as I could before I had to leave for work. And to give you an idea of how rare Pokemon Topps cards apparently are, I called over 330 stores. Of those 330, only 40 had some form of Pokemon Topps cards. That's about a 12% hit rate. And of those 40, only 21 had Pokemon Topps cards that had some special foiling. That's less than a 7% hit rate. The hit rate for Technochrome Topps is probably more, but honestly, talking to card shop owners, even if they did have high-end Topps, it's less than 1% of their business. Topps just moves too slow compared to the regular TCG, and is too niche, so they often sit in a binder or a tub unsorted in the back. Many times, when I asked for a Topps Snorlax, they said things like,
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
And my favorite, your best bet is eBay and TCG Player. Yeah, about that. But even when you know the success rate is low, sometimes you still gotta try. And I did find some cool stuff from some of these cold calls. 1. A card shop in Billings, Montana has a top Snorlax silver foil, and it's a CGC 8.5. Close. Two. Tournament City Games in Fredericks, Maryland actually had a ton of Topps Chrome in comparison to other stores in America. Tucked in a little box, I found Sparkles, Spectras, and even a base Chrome Snorlax. Okay, getting closer. But alas, no Technochromes. I did find a few Technochromes elsewhere. The card shop Play and Talk in Gulfport, Mississippi had a handful of graded cards, including a Technochrome Pharaoh. 4. Dragon's Lair in Omaha, Nebraska had 3 Technochromes, Nidoran, Sandshrew, and Golduck, but no Snorlax. A side note, not a Technochrome, but Pokemonster in Newton, North Carolina had a fire Topps card. Literally, the owner said they had a Sparkle Topps Charizard, but no Snorlax. And speaking of fire, there's a store called I Have Coin Collectibles in Franklin, Massachusetts, mentioned in Collectible Tags video. Well, the owner went above and beyond all the rest of the card stores that I called up. We did a FaceTime call, and he gave a tour of his entire store. We talked about all the different stuff we collect, modern, vintage, airs, and Topps. And he did have a few Topps special foils, including, oh my lord, a partially uncut sheet of the first appearance Topps cards, one of the grails of the Pokemon 2000 movie Topps set. Nope, stay in your lane, Jack, stay in your lane. You're to look for the Technochrome Snorlax only. Don't escalate into something else. He did have a few Technochromes of other Pokemon, but not a Technochrome Snorlax. Regardless, thank you, I Have Coin Collectibles. You were the standout out of all the 330 stores that I called up. Thank you. Now, you'll notice Michigan is a little bit cluttered compared to the rest. That's because the guy, Sam, who posted that he had a Technochrome collection, he mentioned he was in Michigan. His post was in 2017 to 2019, before the Pokemon boom of the COVID pandemic, so I figured if he had decided to cash out, he might have sold it to his local game store, somewhere in Michigan. I never found that mythical local game store. What was kind of funny was a store literally called the Topps Store in Benton Harbor did not have Pokemon Topps cards. 99% of stores didn't have it. In fact, I called one store named Gamers Gambit LLC, located in the Missaukee County. They stated, and I quote here, "Didn't know anyone within 100 miles of here who would be selling this sort of thing." And they're right. Again, 99% of stores didn't have it. I say 99% because at around the 200-mile radius mark, I called up a store called Origins Gaming in Berkeley. They had a Snorlax, Topps, Chrome, Sparkle. They had the second rarest Topps Chrome foil of Snorlax. So close, but so far. Now, to prove that I'm one of the unluckiest Pokemon collectors in the world, Gamers Link in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee had just bought a giant Topps collection that had no Technochrome Snorlaxes. Mad Rat Toys of Houston, Texas literally said they have, I quote, "lots of Chrome, but no Snorlax." I feel kind of targeted. Oh, and it gets even more hilarious. Cardboard Collectibles in Council Bluffs, Iowa said they actually had a whole set of Topps Hollows, Spectras, Sparkles, Technos 6 months ago. Right before I started looking. The kind folks at JC Hobby in Norfolk, Nebraska told me they had a bunch. And then someone bought them all. I honestly wonder if it's the same person buying all the Topps cards in the Midwest. If so, I really hate you, but well played. Now at this point the FOMO and desperation was setting in, and sure enough, I found something that fit into that desperation. I called up a really cool store owner in Bristol, Rhode Island. He didn't have Topps, but knows a vendor that regulars a card show. Last he saw, this collector had 5 or 6 Topps Chrome Pokemon packs. Nope. Only buy singles. Gambling is stupid. We don't want to cross that bridge. I'll admit it's tempting to put all your faith in the slot machine given how bleak the situation is. The lights of the casinos seem to be the only thing left. No. I refuse. I continued to look, hoping there was a glimmer of light somewhere that wasn't from the casino. Now, there were other glimmers of hope. Remember that map of my initial search? You see that island down south? Well, turns out that's Hope Island.
Never accept their first offer.
Okay, it certainly felt that way, but the actual exchange was far less dramatic. The quote-unquote Cynthia is a big eBay seller and Pokemon card collector. And they did have a complete set of Chrome, including the fabled Techno-Chrome Snorlax in good condition. But because it was so rare, it was in their personal collection, and thus was not for sale. 100% understand. I have to search elsewhere. The second guy was not through eBay. One strategy I was thinking of was, okay, if there are not a lot of Topps collectors out there, there's gotta be a Snorlax collector who has one. There's so many people that collect all possible cards of one Pokemon. The Pocket Monster did a challenge for Gengar, and look at this Swinub Shrine. Look at those Moonbreons. Doesn't even have to be expensive. There's this guy who tries to collect all Candela Miscuts. That's strangely specific, but I get it. Collect what you like to collect, and those people really like Gengar, really like Swinub, really like Umbreon, and really like Candela Miscuts. Side note, in one card show, I actually found a Candela Miscut. I sent it over to him. Here's the card. The fact that I found a Candela Error Miscut before I could find a Technochrome Snorlax in the wild, that's insane to me. I found a few Snorlax collectors, and only one responded. The Snorlax Collective. That sounds promising. So I messaged him randomly saying, hey, I came across your page while researching Snorlax cards. I'm trying to help a friend find a Topps Technochrome Snorlax. Do you by chance have one? And he actually responded within a few minutes. Hi, Jack. He reminded me that Snorlax is one of the most expensive for Series 2. And I was like, I know. And then he said he did just go... Oh my. Oh my. Oh my.
Oh my God!
Alas, it was again in his personal collection, not for sale. So close, but so far. As for my other endeavors, in a cruel twist of fate, I was exploring card shops, finding cards for my own collection and the Technochrome Snorlax, and I found a binder of Topps. Most of it was just $1 to $5, non-holos, but then I came across this, a Bulbasaur Technochrome. I don't think the store knew what they had because they just scanned it with an app on their phone, and in total, I got it for $10. That's a steal. Later that day, I was at a card show and someone saw I liked Topps. They said Topps was really hard to move as a vendor, so he had a few he would like to unload at a heavy discount, in which I got a regular Chrome Snorlax. So, I got a Technochrome card, I got a regular Chrome Snorlax card, but I did not get a Technochrome Snorlax card. But this gave me hope. I was sure somewhere out there, sitting in some crusty binder collecting dust at the corner of a shop or in someone's basement, lies a Technochrome Snorlax. I would just have to keep on looking. And after half a year of searching, something's glitched. There's nothing. Oh, right. That's in the next chapter. And after half a year searching, yeah, I wasn't able to find it. I just couldn't. No one had it. Over 20 card shows and conventions, over 200 eBay sellers, over 300 shops in all 50 states, nothing. And yeah, that is actually how this ends, as of now. So, we didn't get the card. A story needs a beginning, middle, and end, and I have no end. Maybe there is some sort of lesson in all of this. What did we learn? Well, I learned how to animate using Blender and Google Earth. Yes, I actually did animate using Google Earth. I highly recommend watching the YouTubers Bobby Broccoli and John Boys, whom do this style of long-form documentaries and animation style, but a million times better. I visited a lot of incredible stores, awesome card shows, and met some incredible people along the way. I even found some rare and cool cards from my own collection that I'll maybe show in another video. But back what I was set out to do. Topps is such a weird set in that it was there at the beginning of Pokemon's inception, but because everyone wanted the TCG, it's tucked away in its own little corner, only appreciated by the occasional Pokemon archaeologist, so to speak. And I must be one of the only Pokemon archaeologists digging for a Topps Chrome Snorlax, because nearly all the stores I asked didn't have it, almost all the Topps collectors that I could find didn't have it, and the few who do have it rightfully keep it under the museum glass of their collection. But still, I couldn't find the Technochrome Snorlax that met all of Big T's conditions. I just couldn't. But you know what? That might be a good thing. I know it sounds like that's what a loser would say, but truly, sometimes it's good to have an insanely hard long-term collecting goal, to have something to always strive for. Now, come to think of it, I think I know why Red was on top of Mount Silver. For those that don't know the lore, you play as the character Red in the original Pokemon games, catching all 151 Pokemon, getting all the gym badges, taking down the Mafia, and beating the Elite Four. And in the sequel, you play as Gold, capturing all the new Pokemon, getting all the gym badges, again taking down the Mafia. And only when you essentially beat the entire game, a whole new region opens up, Mount Silver, with insanely strong Pokemon. You fight your way to the top and meet the real final boss of the game. You, from the first game, Red. There's been a lot of fan theories as to why you from the first game is in isolation on top of Mount Silver. Back then, I didn't really understand why Red was up there either, but I think I get it now. Because getting things isn't fun. The journey to getting things is fun. I know it sounds like a cat poster, but I noticed this in a lot of people's collecting journeys. You start out trying to do a master set because that's the Pokemon social media meta. But really, only one Pokemon resonates with you, and so you try to collect every possible card of that one Pokemon. Then you find a cool art that really resonates with you, so you get that art. Then, to make it even more of a challenge, you save up to collect all the different languages possible for that one Pokemon card with that art. Then you escalate into a harder challenge, like collecting all of the black labels of that Pokemon. Then you escalate to find something harder to complete, to make yourself and your collection stand out against all the other collections out there already. And then you escalate, and then you escalate and escalate. A collector's journey never ends, because once you've gotten everything, accomplished everything, the scariest question remains. What's next? And you know what? It's okay to not have the answer right now and to go slow. I know it feels like you always need to have an answer and always have to be actively collecting cards, because there's been a lot of Pokemon content focusing on scalpers hoarding all the product, and people are worried about the next generation of Pokemon collectors not being able to get the cards they want now. And yes, it sucks. It sucks really bad, to the point some kids can't get the cards they want and are dropping out of the hobby entirely. But you know, fingers crossed, they'll be back. Whether it be the next day, next week, next year, a few years later, a few decades later, the true collectors will always be there. Even if somehow all our cards somehow go to zero, we'll still keep finding cards to collect. The journey to collecting is long term. They may not get the card now, but when they're all grown up, they'll be able to continue the journey, like many of the 90s kids with the COVID pandemic. One of the highlights of this journey that kind of tugged my heart a little bit is not when I got these really cool techno chrome steels, but when I visited a local store in California. I went to a nearby restaurant and there was a line waiting to enter said restaurant, and I snapped this photo of something I saw in the line. Look at that. The kid was watching the Pokemon movie, the dad was doing something else at the time, but when it came to this scene, the dad immediately stopped what he was doing and joined his son, passing down their love of Pokemon in real time. I guarantee you that kid is going to either be a Pikachu, Mew, or Mewtwo collector in the future. And probably be traumatized by the film, but that's besides the point. So I did all this and failed. Why? Well, I felt it was the right thing to do. He helped me, and I tried my best to help him. I don't remember where this quote comes from, but it has always stuck out to me. The friends you make as an adult will never be the same friends you make when you were 10. Oof, well, maybe that's one of the reasons a lot of people gravitate towards Ash, regardless of age. Ash would certainly do this, search far and wide for something small and shiny. Speaking of which, yes, I did all this for, essentially, a shiny piece of cardboard that wasn't even for me. I heard another quote in a conference for my actual job that speaks to this. It's important to take your work seriously, but not yourself too seriously. So yeah, I'm addicted to finding shiny pieces of cardboard. What are you gonna do about it? This video has gone long enough, but before I end, I want to say this. Back in the day, even though base set was only $7 a pack, my lord, my parents would not buy me any Pokemon cards, because money spent on Pokemon cards is money not saved for college, my parents' least favorite category. So, to make things work, I just drew cards, one of which was this, OP Pikachu, that wins you the game with enough energy cards because I was a brilliant game designer. About 20 years later after I drew this, when I was traveling around looking for the Technochrome Snorlax, I happened to come across two local card conventions. One had Serenata Chenny, the other had Veronica Ash Taylor, the two voices of Ash. Fortunately, I got there super early, and so the line was short, and they were so kind and generous with their time that they actually helped transcribe the card. To me, these cards are worth way more than a Gold Star Pikachu, Poncho Pikachu, Mario Pikachus, whatever. It has infinite nostalgia tax. What I'm saying is collecting is a long-term goal. Your journey of collecting doesn't always have to be chasing the big money cards right away. Chase what means something to you, even if it's just 50 cents. Or carve out a challenge for yourself and make the 50-cent card not 50 cents. Or set an even more insane, impossible goal. A black label, a super rare shiny, a Technochrome Snorlax, whatever. It'll turn up somewhere, sometime. You'll probably find something cooler along the way. Just be patient and experience the magic of the journey. So, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed my first long-form video, or at the very least, had something tolerable running in the background while you do your homework or sort through your Pokemon cards. I have a few other long-form videos in the pipeline, some of them about Pokemon, some about Magic the Gathering, some about TCGs that hadn't taken off and the lore behind them. I'm thinking of having at least one video dedicated to showing some of the weirder cards I collect, like... What the f...